Welcome to the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living. Thanks for joining us today. Make sure you say hi in the chat and give some hearts and comments and thoughts all throughout the service. And we're going to start with a beautiful opening chant from Karen Drucker. I love this song. It reminds me who and what we are all the time. So I hope it stays with you all week long. It's called Blessing to the World. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Rio Grande Center for Spiritual Living. You are a blessing to the world. My name is Kamatara, and I am a licensed spiritual practitioner here at the center and also a ministerial intern. And it is our intention that you will be inspired by the music, that you will be transformed by the message, and that you will feel connected to each other in this precious community. You are here by divine appointment. Welcome home. As this spiritual community is associated with the Centers for Spiritual Living, we teach the science of mind, which is the study of life and the nature of the laws of thought. It's the idea that we live in a spiritual universe, that God or Spirit is in, through, and around us, and that this presence is a loving source of good. Most importantly, every man, woman, and child who lives in the universe is significant to the Creator. Our doors and our hearts will forever be open to all. Today, we have so many people helping out in the service to make this happen. Behind the scenes, we have the wizard behind the curtain. That is Annette Martinez, running tech and sound and internet and website and Facebook and YouTube, you name it. Thank you, Annette. We also have Marilyn O'Leary, our beautiful practitioner, who is going to be giving our invocation and our benediction. On High Watch, we have a powerhouse team for you today. Greg Gardner, Teresa Greco, Kathy Mathiasen, and I think even Julia Washington. Thank you so much for surrounding us in prayer during this sacred time together. Our announcements will be given by Dr. Norm. Love that guy. So glad he's here with us today. And we have, of course, our amazing musicians, Andrew Cooper on lead vocals, A on the drums, Ken on the guitar, and then I'm on piano. And next week, we will even have platform assistants. We're kind of branching back out. Remember how we used to have practitioners being platform assistants to MC the service? So little by little, we're growing, expanding, doing great here. So thank you. Let's take a moment to reconnect with our vision and our mission statement. And go ahead and say it out loud with me in your home. Our vision transforming our world with the power of love in action. And our mission, loving all creation through spiritual growth and service, always staying true to our highest self. And now it's time for our invocation with our wonderful practitioner, Marilyn O'Leary.
Good morning. So take a deep breath and know with me that spirit lives in us always, that the everlasting spirit within and the everlasting spirit without meets for us, for our expression, for our well-being. And that spirit is there no matter what. If we're feeling a little antsy, living in the pandemic and being in our homes, or worrying, if we are a little antsy, let us remember that Spirit is with us. That no matter what it looks like, Spirit walks that road with us. And we are strong because of Spirit. And Spirit is here blessing us this morning. And I want to bless every person who has helped and is helping with our service this morning. Kamatara, I would like to bless her, and she's giving a wonderful talk this morning. Bless all the people on sound who bring this to us. It's a miracle that we are able to be together as often as we want in these wonderful times. And I also bless the people who are providing the music. The musicians are wonderful. We're grateful for them. I bless the people who come and turn the lights on, the people who clean our place, the people who want to work in the bookstore and can't wait to get back because they will be here for you and they're thinking about you. And I want to bless also the people in the office and who do the newsletter, the people who are on our board, all of these wonderful congregants, the people who do outreach, who are still there doing outreach, still here doing outreach with us. We are blessed to be surrounded by this beautiful, loving community. And so as I know that we are together, that we are one, that Spirit is in each of us, that Spirit joins us, I know this, I am grateful. I am lifted in joy during the service, and I know that all is well, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Marilyn. That was a beautiful prayer. Our reading for today comes from a book you know I'm grooving on this year. It is 365 Days of Richer Living, Daily Inspirations from Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Baker. So this one happens to come from February 4th. I read this and thought, oh, this is it. This is the one for you today. It says, I am victorious over all difficulties, for I have faith in God, the good, omnipotent. All right, here we go. The victorious attitude is the one that recognizes the unlimited power of God. Without this awareness, no one can be victorious over the negatives of life. Those who live without spiritual vision and understanding are forever trying to solve their problems by manipulating their human minds and exerting their human wills. This exhausts them, frustrates them, gives them no peace. The recognition of God as cause and as the creative power of this world brings victory to the soul. It does this because all problems begin and end within the individual's own consciousness. As we realize that God's mind is in us as the basis of our individual consciousness, we begin to solve our problems at the point of their origin, which is within ourselves. We find the inner security which comes from knowing that God's ideas in us are now giving us correct instruction in the way we should go. And here's the little prayer that they put on each page. I have faith that within me is the presence of God as pure mind. I have faith that this inner Christ is now victorious over all the problems facing me this day and this week. I let go of all human will. I believe that God has prepared for me increased good in every department of my life. I accept this good and I rejoice in it. I am victorious and undaunted. I go forth to handle the affairs of my life with wisdom and love. Nothing can stop the action of God from taking place in my experience, for I love God and I know his inner presence. I am poised, confident, and sure, for I am established in unlimited good. This is the truth, and I declare it. So now it's time for another inspirational song from the band.
Here's a favorite of mine from Jamie Lula. It's an amazing call to action to really listen. It's called Something's Calling Me.
Something's calling me. Something's calling me. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Feels like I'm walking on marble. Can't feel the earth beneath my feet. Is my head in the clouds, my naked legs left dangling. I can feel my heart begin to pound. 'Cause something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Long dark night, my soul it wanders. Can't see the light that moves me. If God is everything and everywhere that I belong, spiritually wake me from my sleep. 'Cause something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Draw me deeper than I've ever been before. Oh, Lord. Oh, Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Love is calling me. Yeah. My faith is calling me. Spirit's calling me. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before.
Just take a moment and sit in that. Thank you, Andrew Cooper, for sharing that inspiration with us and to the whole band. And something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. Is that not just a theme song for all of 2020 and into 2021? Whew, absolutely. In fact, just a couple weeks ago, I was having a conversation with my minister friend who's in the United Methodist Church, kindred spirit, same cloth. Our ministries are both in the social justice arena. And she asked a really important question that I think a lot of us have been grappling with recently. She asked, how can I possibly stay in alignment with my faith, what I believe to be true, and still relate to what I'm seeing in current events? Oh, that is a hard question. Because I know I've been there. I've looked at certain things that have happened and I think, what century are we in? Did this person even see the civil rights movement? What is going on here? How could we even be on the same planet that some people think this way, but I think that way, or we are having totally different experiences of this is like parallel universe. I can't even process this. Okay, well, there is a way to process this. And it's what we read today in chapter 4 of Creating the Beloved Community by Reverend Dr. Jim Lockhart. And even if you didn't read the chapter, it's okay. I'm going to coach you here because there is an answer to this really hard question. There's this simple little system that we could see and figure out. It explains the complexity of the human experience. And once you see it, you'll never not be able to see it. And that's the cool thing about this. So I'm going to give you this week the global overview of this simple little system. And then next week, the chapter in the book, chapter 5, and Reverend Karen are going to take that simple little system and apply it to our spiritual community. Okay, so step number 1, we are just going to explore this concept. And Reverend Dr. Jim Lockhart in the book, Creating the Beloved Community, he calls this system cultural evolution. If you go back into the 1950s and 60s, Claire Graves, she calls it spiral dynamics. If you like Barbara Marx Hubbard, which I sure do, she calls it conscious evolution. A little more contemporary author, Ken Wilber, he calls it integral theory. And if you like science of mind, and I think you do because you're watching this broadcast, Ernest Holmes calls it being open at the top. Just like this teaching symbol behind me, the V is me, surrounded by divinity, right? I am open at the top. I'm always growing and learning and evolving and changing. So it doesn't matter what you call it, it's all the same concept. So let me break it down. I'm going to make this simple little system here for you. I want you to picture this enormous timeline stretching as far far as you can imagine, from the dawn of humankind all the way to today, and then even beyond what we know. Here's this timeline, and it's going to try to represent the evolution of consciousness for all of humanity. Right? Yeah, it's kind of heady, but it's really a neat system because as we start to look over the course of human history, we can start to see patterns. And when the folks saw the patterns and they kind of grouped it together and they said, okay, let's give this a color and a name. And we're going to say, here are some characteristics that we see that tend to happen in this level of consciousness. And there are some characteristics, and there are some tragic flaws. Now, isn't that just so human, right? We all have our great characteristics and our tragic flaws. All right. So as Reverend Dr. Jim explains, if you're following along in the book, page 43, he writes, this model proposes that increases in complexity of human thinking have evolved over time in responses to changes in the living conditions of human beings. As the outer world became more complex, increasingly, humans were driven to use more of their capacity to think in more complex ways. That makes a lot of sense. Let's think about our friend, the caveman. Hello, Mr. Nomad. What do you need to be able to function in society? Okay, you need X amount of capacity. Sure, that makes sense. Okay, now let's picture Mr. Farmer. Okay, we're tied to the land, we're farming, we're growing things. It's a little more complex what we have to face and do. So my thinking has to expand a little bit to process what's going on. Okay, and now, gosh, it sure be helpful. Maybe we could help each other out. And this whole tribal thing could be really good for us. But boy, tribe, that's way more complex. And then we get cities, and then we get states, and then we get counties, and then we get countries, and then we get, okay, you see where I'm going here with this, right? So as life gets more complex, our consciousness has to expand. We have some kind of operating system, like a view. Here's our operating system so we can run the apps we need to function. And then, as life expands, we have to upgrade our operating system to be able to run the new apps that are coming out. So some people call this a paradigm of consciousness. If you're Buddhist, you might call it's your view that impacts your practice and how things outpicture. But here's the trick. When you look at the evolution of consciousness over time, you can't skip levels. You got to go through everything to get to where you're going. But that gives me a little hope, because as I transcend and include everything that went before me, that means I have an understanding of everything that's gone before me. That gives me some hope that maybe we could find some common ground. Even if I'm at a different level of consciousness than someone else, I can still relate to some aspects of that level of consciousness as well. There is some common ground where we can meet each other no matter where people are at. But basically, people have a certain center of gravity. Like, I can understand everything that came before me, but I tend to hang my hat here. And I might understand glimmers of what's beyond me, but doesn't quite compute yet. And that's okay. And I do want to convey the that's okay part. I know we're using the word level of consciousness, and level implies hierarchy, or this is better than that, or I'm more evil. No, don't go there. Let's just chuck that thinking. People are wherever they are. They are living to the extent of their capacity, the pioneering edge of themselves. They are always doing the best they can, no matter what that looks like. So I want you to think it's neither good nor bad. It's neither right nor wrong. It just is wherever people are at. And one of the pitfalls of us being where we're at is getting really siloed or really isolated. We surround ourselves with only the people who think like us. And I know, I'll just be vulnerable here, Centers for Spiritual Living, New Thought folks, we do tend to huddle together. We're like, oh my God, like-minded people, I love you. Sometimes I feel like a unicorn out in the world. So yes, I do want to be around my people. Yes, I do want people who understand me. But there's more to this world than that. I don't want to get entrenched. So how do we navigate these differences and truly be fully inclusive? Because we claim in Centers for Spiritual Living that we want to create a world that works for everyone. And I don't know about you, but the last time I looked up the definition of everyone, it actually, means like all people. So this is tricky stuff, but we can do this. And the way that we start doing this is by seeing the pattern. What is the pattern in the seeming chaos? There is order. So I'm going to explain just 3 of the predominant levels of consciousness we are seeing on our planet right now. Right now, some people are in the blue or traditional level where they're really into rules and regulations and systems and governments, and they might be very fundamentalist. Like, these are the rules and this is the way we do it. And if you don't do it this way, you are wrong. And it can get really punitive or punishing. And it can get really, it could even get, violent, like you have to do this or you die. That's the downside of that level. It can get really hardcore. The good side of that level, the gift in that level, are rules and government. Like, thank you, God, that we have some rules so we can get along and take care of each other. I appreciate the things that government can do. It can be really powerful and wonderful. So there are gifts to being blue. But when it goes to extreme, like we might be seeing right now, that's really hard. So another level is the orange level, and that's called modern. And that's where it's a little more individualistic. Like, I am going to take charge of my life. Does this sound familiar, New Thoughters? I am responsible for me, and I'm going to leverage this democracy and leverage this capitalism and leverage this competition so I can live this abundant life for me. And that's okay. That really rocks. A lot of people are rocking that, and a lot of New Thought communities, that's where we're at, and that's fine. And that does give us huge progress, like the scientific revolution, all the inventions, the technology that we have nowadays. Thank you. That's beautiful. Keep on doing that. Where it gets a little tricky is when we are super isolated from one another and we think we're just in this alone. And David Brooks, if you've read the book Second Mountain, good book, he calls it hyper individualism. Too much. And I think 2020 and 2021 is maybe helping us to realize how too much that is. So the next level of conscious evolution is green, which is postmodern, and our cultural creatives really relate to this. And this also is in the New Thought arena. You'll meet a lot of people who are in the green level, where we get that interdependency of what's happening. It's almost like an ecology or an ecosystem, that what happens to you impacts me. It's like the civil rights movement of injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. We're getting that bigger picture. And again, none of these are right or wrong. They're just different ways of seeing and being and understanding. So the big question is, what happens when there's a planetary shift of levels? Well, you get what's happening right now. It's pretty gory, isn't it? But birth is messy. Think about some big transitions you've been through, like, I don't know, say puberty. Woo, that was messy. But when you get out the other side, isn't it beautiful and victorious and amazing? So we know that right now we are at a historic moment. In fact, to go back to Barbara Marx Hubbard, you've heard me say this before, but it's so important that I'm going to say it again. We are witnessing the evolution of evolution itself. We are shifting from unconscious evolution that happens by chance into conscious evolution that happens by choice. And we're tipping the scales. How many people are conscious? How are we relating to each other? And when we do see something that is unconscious, as we might be seeing in the news when these things are happening, can we see that that's a cry for help? That people might have an old operating system that no longer computes. It's like this beast that is cornered and about to die and just flailing wildly. You get the histrionic reactions because they are in sheer terror. And so a terrorist response makes sense in that moment to them. And I'm not saying it's right that that happened, but it does make sense. And so can I have compassion in that moment to separate the person from the act? And I can be mature and more complex about it than just saying right or wrong, black or white. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Can I hold that person accountable for their actions? Because yes, things happen and you need to be held accountable for your actions. I'm not trying to do a spiritual bypass and sing kumbaya and be like, oh, let's all just get together and it's fine. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying I can hold someone accountable for their actions and still love the person who may not have the spiritual understanding that we are privileged to have, may not have the tools that we have. Could I be that person who shows up in the space of love? Like my mom used to say to me when I would do something naughty, and she would say, I don't approve of what you did. And you are grounded, little lady, but I still love you. That is a whole different level of understanding and love. Separating it out, holding accountable, but being compassionate. That is how we get our view and our faith to align. It's that radical acceptance for the whole of life in all its messy goodness. Not just, oh, well, God is only in these places, but not those. No. If we say that God is all there is, then that is it. And I love what Ram Dass says when he says, this life has a horrible beauty to it. So what is my responsibility in all of this? Okay, well, it's to evolve. It's to be conscious. Am I aware of where I am in the levels of consciousness? And do I have the courage to hold the space for someone else to evolve as well, to know the truth for them? How attached am I to the melodrama of my story? Ooh, that is the definition of suffering, is it not? In fact, today in the Science of Mind magazine, there was a great quote from Ernest Holmes. It says, we are all carrying the negative experiences of our past into the future merely because we have not disconnected them from our minds. If we are creating a negative future, it is because we have not changed our thought about it. Why are we holding on to hate and condemnation and outrage? If we're going to balance the scale, which side of the scale do you want to be on? The hate side? The love side? I want my name to be on the roster of love. So using this simple little system of spiral dynamics, cultural evolution, integral theory, whatever you want to call it, I can see the pattern. When I come up against something that just seems totally incongruous with my faith and my reality, I can stop, take a deep breath, and say, okay, what's the pattern here? Where is this person coming from? And can I show up as love, really value the other person's gifts, and create a safe place where evolution could happen? If I come out guns blazing and throw the person under the bus and I'm all piss and vinegar about it, I don't think that's going to get the reaction I'd like. I don't know, for you, that's never worked for me. Usually I just get more of it right back at me. But when I show up as love and compassion and understanding, then at least there's a chance there could be more love, compassion, and understanding. Are we brave enough to give that a shot? As Gary Simmons, our friend in the Unity faith, says, there is only one relationship, and that is the relationship with God. Everything else is an outpicturing of that one relationship. Now, it's easy when we say, oh, yeah, my relationship with my friends is an expression of God. That is so sweet. Okay, let me push you. How does that relationship with God look like when you think about someone whose words, actions, thoughts, and deeds just curdles your blood? How is that reflecting your relationship with God as well? And as Gary Simmons also likes to say, we are either the way of God or we are in the way of God. What are you going to do today, this week, this year? I want to be the way of God. I want to see as God sees. I want to love as God loves. I want to be the change and love the person. I want to go a little bit deeper than I have ever gone before. That's what's going to tip the scales of consciousness into a more evolved space where we really can create a world that works for everyone. And that kind of love is like a full contact sport, a whole body mystical awakening for warriors only kind of love, not for the faint of heart. But we are advanced students of spiritual law, and I know we can handle it. So I'd like to close with a prayer that I wrote when I was kind of in a mystical space here. And it's my prayer that I hope for you, for me, for all of us as we embody this deeper expression of love. And of course, this prayer is called I Love You. I love you from my feet to foster the common ground in which to know connection. I love you from my womb to foster a creative space in which to know empowerment. I love you from my heart to foster an empathetic space in which to know compassion. I love you from my head to foster an intellectual space in which to know true understanding. I love you from my crown to foster a mystical space in which to know the divine through each other. Namaste. Whew. And now let's go to treatment. In this mystical space of the divine, that is the space where I am, you are, we are, I know the presence of the one loving source, the all that is, this thing that I choose to call God, that is expressing in all of life as we know it and even beyond what we can understand. I know that this infinite loving source is God. And there is no place where God is not. And rooted in this truth, I know that I am aligned with the divine that is the presence and power within. You are, we are, every person who crosses our path is an expression of that one living source, no exceptions. And stepping into this wider view, I align my practice this week. I claim for myself to see as God sees, to know as God knows, to love as God loves, like a warrior, unconditional love all around. I can do it because I am the place where love shows up. And I release anything that feels like negativity, hate, condemnation, despair, outrage, anything that just captures me or traps me in the muck and takes me out of alignment with the divine. I surrender all of that, all the conditions. I surrender it all into the divine. and I let God do the heavy lifting. I allow myself to open up enough to be that love and to make the safe space where I can evolve, other people might be able to evolve, and we can progress in this beautiful, messy human condition in which we find ourselves. I love it all. And with deep gratitude for this teaching, this philosophy, this faith, and our spiritual community and our studies and everything that helps us to see order in the chaos. Oh, I'm so grateful for the capacity to understand, for the capacity to evolve. Oh, thank goodness that that's the way it works. I'm so, so grateful. And I'm so grateful to lean into the divine and our spiritual community when I do forget. Ooh, because it's going to happen. But super grateful to lean in and remember who and what I am, and to reconnect with the truth and to live that truth. And so with complete confidence in the law, knowing that this is how the universe works, I release this prayer out into the universe, knowing it comes back and manifests in perfect divine right order now. And go ahead and say with me, and so it is. And now it's time for a fun, upbeat, inspiring song from the band.
Here's another fun song from pop culture. I love it when Science Mind shows up in our songs on the radio. So from, I think, the 90s, it's Change Your Mind by Sister Hazel.
Hey, if you ever think there might be another way to just feel better about today. Oh no, if you never want to have to turn and go away, you might feel better if you stay. Yeah, I bet you haven't heard a word I've said. Yeah, if you had enough of all you're trying, just give up the state of mind you're in. If you wanna be somebody else, if you're tired of fighting battle with yourself, if you wanna be somebody else, change your mind, change your mind. Hey, have you ever danced in the rain and thank the sun just for shining on the sea? Oh no, take it all in the world to show, and yeah, you look much better when you glow. Yeah, I hope you heard every word I've said. Yeah, if you had enough of all you're trying, just give up the state of mind you're in. If you wanna be somebody else, if you're tired of fighting battle with yourself, if you wanna be somebody else, change your mind, change your mind. Ooh. Hey, you say we both go and seize the day, yeah. Cause what's your hurry anyway? Yeah, I hope you've heard every word I've said. Yeah, if you had enough of all you're trying, just give up the state of mind you're in. If you wanna be somebody else, if you're tired of fighting battles with yourself, if you wanna be somebody else, change your mind. If you wanna be somebody else,
Thank you, band. Oh my gosh, love it. So it is our giving time now, and we appreciate anything and everything that you give time, talent, treasure. This is a time specifically for treasure. So we appreciate any money that you are able to share with this beautiful spiritual community so we can continue to give this message to the world. And we are so looking forward to someday getting back together in this beautiful building and having, all firing on all cylinders. So please, anything that you can give to the center and the music ministry, we really appreciate you. So now let's go to our giving affirmation and say that together. I am abundant, and I give for my abundance. I am prosperous, and I give for my prosperity. I am blessed, and I give for my blessings. My blessings of spirit are as abundant as the stars, and so I give and receive generously. And so it is. And just taking a moment to bless everything that is coming in at this moment. And even as Dr. Norm does the announcements, there's still time to give whatever you can today, following the little scroll underneath the screen here. And so I know that everyone who gives today to this beautiful ministry that is life-changing, world-changing, is equally blessed. It is given and received with the beautiful intention that you have in your heart. I can feel that love and that generosity, and I know that you receive that love and generosity right back into your life. And so knowing that all these donations and all this generosity and love is truly blessed, I give thanks. And so it is. And now it is time for our announcements with Dr. Norm.
Good morning, Kamatara, and good morning, everybody. Thank you. Hey, special announcement. Y'all want to see Reverend Martha again and the RGCSL band? Well, that's coming up February 17th, where the Centers for Spiritual Living Convention is going to happen right here in the Albuquerque Zoom area. And of course, Reverend Martha will be there along with Reverend Sharon Hudson. So for more details, look at your bulletin and you'll get all that stuff in there. Also, hey, guess what? Coming up next Sunday, it's called Valentine's Day. So speaking of love, well, here's a chance for you to make a difference here. Just go down to the social hall starting today through February 11th between 10 and 2, and you can make Valentines. Woo! So you can make one for a loved one and send one to a congregant, and all the materials will be provided. Okay, there's been a couple of classes that are being postponed. Both the treatment and meditation and the exploring roots are going to be rescheduled. So that date is going to be March 4th. And we need 6 people in each one of those classes to get the best maximum dynamic benefit out of it. $25 per class, plus a registration fee. And so be sure to go to your bulletin or the website to get all that wonderful information. There's going to be a virtual spiritual class where you can reconnect with your compass. So maybe your resolutions have dissipated, maybe your life is adrift, and maybe you want some clarity and focus. Well, that's going to be a virtual retreat led by none other than our own Kamatara Johnson. So be sure to check that out. It's going to be Saturday, February 27th via Zoom from 10 to 3 Mountain Time, and the cost on that one is $50. The RGCSL Community Reach Out team is holding a food drive helping families at Mary Ann Binford Elementary School, February 8th through March 4th. So you can drop off your donations right here, there at the sanctuary, Monday through Thursday from 10 to 3, and they can even shop for you if you want. So they really do appreciate our support. So please come to the Zoom room right after this for some fellowship and sharing. We'll see you in a few minutes. Thanks.
has helped us through this wonderful service today. And I bless everyone on their way, knowing that the love that we receive, the love that we are inspired to give, is an expression of us. And that as we go forth this week, we love every person. They know that love is coming from us. Maybe they don't know it's coming from us, but they feel the love. And so as we go forward this week, we go forward in love. And I affirm for each person well-being, health, divine guidance, and safety. And until next week, so it is. Amen.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Oh, I think to myself, what a wonderful